Hi, my name is Nicole Cramblett, and this presentation reflects my professional growth through the Master of Education and Elementary Education program at Georgia College and State University. This program strengthened my pedagogical knowledge, teaching practices, and professional dispositions related to reflection, leadership, and advocacy. My action research on family engagement and my professional learning investigation of dyslexia allowed me to apply research to meaningful educational challenges. Together, these experiences helped me recognize that leadership does not require a formal title. As an architect of change, I can use evidence, relationships, and advocacy to positively influence children, families, colleagues, and the school community. My Master in Education program transformed not only what I know, but how I apply knowledge, reflect, and lead. I strengthened my pedagogical knowledge by studying child development, curriculum, literacy research, and assessment. I also developed practical skills in differentiation, data analysis, family communication, and action research. The program deepened dispositions such as collaboration, ethical decision making, cultural responsiveness, and reflective practice. I became more intentional about listening to students, families, colleagues, and research when making decisions. Together, these areas supported my development as an architect of change. I now understand leadership as using knowledge, evidence, and relationships to create positive change within and beyond my classroom. Throughout this program, I developed a deeper understanding of how theory and research guide instruction. Studying Piaget, Vygotsky, Dewey, and Montessori helped me consider how children construct knowledge, learn socially, and benefit from meaningful, developmentally appropriate experiences. My literacy coursework and study of the science of reading strengthened my understanding of foundational skills, language comprehension, and explicit instruction. The program also changed how I use assessment. Rather than viewing it only as a measure of performance, I use it to identify patterns, differentiate instruction, monitor progress, and evaluate my own teaching. As a result, my instructional decisions are more purposeful, evidence based, and responsive to individual learners. This program also strengthened my ability to translate professional knowledge into action through assessment portfolios, case studies, surveys, research assignments. I learned to collect and analyze information systematically. I became more skilled at examining patterns across assessment results, which helped me identify needs, differentiate instruction, provide targeted support, and monitor whether strategies were effective. I also strengthened my communication and my collaboration skills by working with students, families, professors, classmates, and colleagues. These experiences helped me develop an intentional improvement cycle, assess needs, implement a responsive strategy, gather evidence, reflect, and refine on my own practice. This cycle supports more responsive and equitable learning opportunities. The Master in Education program deepened the dispositions that shape how I work with children, families, colleagues, and the profession. I learned that leadership and advocacy begin with reflection, collaboration, ethical responsibility, and a commitment to equity. Reflection requires examining my assumptions and considering how decisions may affect others. Collaboration requires listening to perspectives beyond my own. For example, developing surveys that accommodated different languages reinforced the importance of listening to families rather than just assuming one approach would meet everybody's needs. The program also strengthened my commitment to confidentiality, respect, and a child centered decision making. I now view leadership as relational rather than positional. It involves building trust, valuing multiple voices, and using professional knowledge responsibly to improve educational opportunities. Developing as an architect of change. My understanding of leadership expanded significantly during the program. I previously associated leadership with formal titles, but I now recognize that teachers lead by identifying needs, investigating problems, applying research, and influencing practice. Becoming an architect of change begins with listening to students, families, colleagues, and evidence from practice. The next step is using professional resources and inquiry to implement and evaluate responsive strategies. My family engagement research and dyslexia investigation demonstrate this process. Each began with an educational need and led me to examine research, gather evidence, and identify improvements. By sharing this, learning, and advocating for equitable practices, I can extend classroom inquiry into professional leadership. Now I'm going to move forward with my action research. So, my action research examined which communication strategies could support family engagement in academics, specifically homework completion. I used a qualitative action research because I wanted to examine my practice and use family and student experiences to guide my improvement in a live way. Participants included 17 second grade students that were very diverse and their families during a 6-week period. I obtained the required approvals and informed consent before I started collecting data. Communication strategies included class dojo reminders, conferences, individualized messages, phone calls, and family outreach. Data included surveys, student questionnaires, homework logs, communication records, observations, and field notes. Using multiple sources allowed me to triangulate patterns. This process strengthened my ability to use research methods for continuous professional learning and improvement. So, what were the findings and my professional implications? Well, I found that weekly communication helped sustain homework participation, but it did not significantly increase the overall completion rate. My average completion remained approximately 69%, with 11 to 12 out of my 17 students participating consistently. Individualized communication included conferences, targeted messages, and those appeared more effective than just general reminders for some students because it helped me understand and respond to family circumstances. 4 of my 17 students remained chronically inconsistent despite repeated outreach. Attendance, illness, family responsibilities, and other circumstances affected participation. This challenged deficit based assumptions because inconsistent homework did not necessarily indicate that families lacked an interest in their child's education. As a teacher, I will use consistent, two-way communication and differentiate support. As an advocate and leader, I will promote accessible, cultural responsive, and relationship centered family engagement. The study taught me that equitable engagement requires both effective communication as well as an understanding of each family's circumstances. Now I'm going to move forward with my professional learning plan on dyslexia. So, my professional learning plan focused on evidence based support for elementary students that have dyslexia. I reviewed professional text, peer reviewed research, the Godot Dyslexia Informational Handbook, Microsoft Learn modules, and structured literacy webinars. I synthesized this learning through notes, an annotated bibliography, reflections, an infographic, and even a workshop proposal. The investigation deepened my understanding that structured literacy should be explicit, systematic, cumulative, and responsive to assessment. Instruction must connect phonological awareness, phonics, syllable patterns, morphology, spelling, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. These skills should not be taught as isolated activities. They require direct modeling, cumulative practice, and progress monitoring. This investigation strengthened my knowledge, instructional confidence, and my ability to advocate for students that have dyslexia. What were the expected impact of my dyslexia investigation? Well, because this investigation involved professional learning rather than a classroom intervention, its outcomes are anticipated rather than measured. For students, structured literacy can provide clearer instruction, earlier recognition of difficulties, and increased confidence and independence. For my teaching, the investigation provides a stronger framework for selecting strategies, monitoring progress, and adjusting instruction based on evidence. It can also strengthen family partnerships by helping educators explain dyslexia without deficit based language and provide practical strategies for supporting literacy. Finally, my workshop proposal allows the learning to extend beyond my classroom. By sharing my research, my infographic, and strategies with colleagues, I can help build collective knowledge and greater instructional consistency across classrooms. To conclude, my continuing growth and leadership goals. This capstone represents a transition rather than an endpoint. My next step is to turn individual professional growth into collective impact. I will lead by sharing my family engagement findings and dyslexia resources through grade level meetings and professional learning opportunities. I will advocate for accessible, culturally responsive communication and structured literacy practices that support diverse readers. I will also challenge deficit based assumptions about students with families and families. Within the next 2 years, I plan to present this work to colleagues, collaborate with school leadership, and evaluate the impact of newly implemented strategies. The program strengthened my knowledge, my skills, and dispositions while changing how I understand my influence. I am prepared to lead from the classroom as a reflective educator, an informed advocate, and ultimately an architect of change. Lastly, I'll show you my references, and I wanted to thank you for your time to allow me to share my capstone journey with you today. I sincerely appreciate your attention, your thoughtful consideration, and commitment to supporting my growth as an educator, leader, and advocate. Thank you very much.